It's been a year since I did my overrated versus underrated 2020 second-hand club picks, and I think I should probably give you an update on that list. You'll find it at the car boot sale for a tenner, and you'll be able to sell it for £100. I think it went for like £80–90, which is just ludicrous, because if that had a 3 or 4 on the bottom of it, it's worth 40 at best. You're probably going to grab yourself one of these clubs that's just come out in the last 2 years for an astonishing price, which I think is a steal. If you're getting 5 to pitching wedge, 6 clubs for £350 for a club that's just a year old, and you can get a brand new 2021 driver for the same price as a club that's been battered, hit multiple times, but because it got really good YouTube reviews 3 years ago, people were paying over the odds. Guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. It's Simon down here at Sanford Springs Golf Club, out doing a bit of second-hand left-handed practice, but that's not what you'll be seeing today. If you want to go and get an update on exactly what that is, go and check the last few videos. Underrated versus overrated second-hand clubs 2021. We've seen prices go up, we've seen prices come down, and this is going to be a more modern choice. My overrated choices haven't really changed that much, so I'll give you some honourable mentions, but the one that I did last year, pretty much the same stuff. Ping fairways, very expensive. TaylorMade Spider and Scotty putters, even the old ones, still going for an exceptional amount of money. Vokey wedges, way overpriced, etc, etc, etc. So realistically, I'll give you some honourable mentions, but my list pretty much stays the same for the overrated. However, there's been a big change in my underrated list, and there's some real good modern clubs now that I think are going for the same amount of money, and you're getting that more advancement, shinier clubs, more modern. So if you want to upgrade, if you want to sell your Ping G15 driver and upgrade it to a driver that came out a year ago, well, this list might be for you. So before I get into my underrated list, here's some overrated options to update from last year that you should be staying away from because the prices are just so inflated. Number 1, Odyssey putters. You've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know exactly where the prices are for these things. You'll find it at the car boot sale for a tenner, and you'll be able to sell it for £100 on eBay, which is extortionate. I don't know what it is. I imagine it's just the demand of people getting back into the game, and they just remember the 2-ball putter was the thing 10, 15 years ago. Not to mention, Odyssey brought out a brand new version of this that retails at £229 or £230. So it probably makes sense that people think, well, the old school one should be at least worth £80, £90, £100. And well, it just isn't. Next up in my overrated list, 2 irons. Anything with the number 2 on the bottom of it seems to go for £80 plus, no matter the condition of the grip shaft or even head. Some of these clubs aren't even 2 driving irons either. I even saw like a Nike Vapor Speed 2 iron. I think it went for like £80, £90, which is just ludicrous, because if that had a 3 or 4 on the bottom of it, it's worth 40 at best. And even though this didn't quite make it into my underrated section, it's probably like properly rated. I would say Strixon utility driving irons are one of my favourite, and I think a good value. You can find a U65, U45, U85 for around £80, £90. They're quite rare in this country to pop up as much as they do, like all the other ones, but it also means people aren't really looking for them, so you have to be patient. But when it comes to utility driving irons, that will be going back in my bag this year. Stupidly, I sold my old one to build my £500 bag for this year. It will heavily be going back in. Graphite steel, it's a great looking head, great feeling head, very forgiving, which is what you want from a 2 iron, and for 60, 70, even £80, it's an absolute steal. And my last bonus pick for the overrated option, considering all the stuff that I said in my last video, is still heavily overrated. Ping fairway woods, TaylorMade drivers, Scotties, Spider putters, Titleist wedges. They're just so old, knackered and busted, and you're paying the same amount of money for those as you potentially can for a brand new one, or potentially any of the options I'm going to give you in this underrated list. However, one has stuck out this year for me, and that's the F9 Cobra driver. I get it, it's a good driver. It was great value when it came out 3 years ago, but it's the same price as a Rad Speed. I'll show you the F9 price now, listed, and they're going for 200, 210, really good condition, £240. I'll show you some Rad Speeds, or even forget that, Speed Zone. And because it didn't get as much publicity, and because we're in the lockdown and potentially they haven't sold as many through the door, people are offloading it, and you can get a brand new 2021 driver for the same price as a club that's been battered, hit multiple times, but because it got really good YouTube reviews 3 years ago, people were paying over the odds. So let's start the underrated list off at the top of the bag, and at the top of the bag it's going to be a bit of a surprise, and maybe through the entire list, as they are slightly more premium than the underrated clubs of last time. However, I'm factoring how new these clubs are, like how recently they just come out, what you're actually getting for your money, and the chances that that these things are probably going to break on your hands. Like a lot of the clubs that sometimes I suggest are 7, 8, 9 years old, you don't know what those clubs have been through. To start off, the driver, Callaway Epic Flash. This driver was released just before lockdown, and this is one of the reasons that I think it really struggled to get off into anyone's hands. Now, number one, I would say this driver isn't for the slower swing speed players. Therefore, there's kind of a capped market there. You're only looking for the big hitters, and that's probably who I'd recommend going down the route of if you were to get this driver. But you're seeing prices here for 130, 140, 160, comfortably getting it for 180, and this driver retailed at 449. And you could probably say the same for the Maverick as well, and that's probably more suited for the slower swing speed player. Again, £200, £210, £119, and with all of these clubs, and if you just wait, take your time, look at listings that are ending at obscure times, early in the morning, very late in the evening, you're probably going to grab yourself one of these clubs that's just come out in the last 2 years for an astonishing price, a price that you would see going for the same amount in TaylorMade or Ping that are 8 years older. Therefore, for me personally, if I was to go and get a driver this year on a budget and I wanted to get as much as I can for my money, Callaway Epic Flash and potentially the Maverick as well for under 200, 180, 160 pounds, it's definitely worth a look at. When we go into the fairway wood options, I can't really suggest Callaway Epic Flash or Maverick because they seem to be going for the same amount as the driver. You're getting an Epic Flash fairway wood for 160 pounds and you're getting a Maverick for the same amount, or the Maverick driver for the same amount of money. So I had to change tactic, and I did a video on this recently, probably about 3 weeks ago. Mizuno are heavily underrated when it comes to their fairways or even drivers, but especially their fairway woods and hybrids, and that's why for me personally I think ST180, ST190 is a great choice under £100 for a fairway wood. We're talking £90, £80, a battered bruised one for £70, £60. It just makes sense for you guys that are just starting the game, that's just looking to upgrade from maybe a club that's 7, 8 years old. This is a great option, and I think around £70 to £80 for these clubs, they're going to hold their value, i.e. in 2 years time when I do another one of these lists, it's still going to be worth £60, £70, and that's my whole idea of doing these underrated lists, is that you could buy something this year and sell it for the same amount of money in 2 years time. Number 3, we go on to hybrids, and it's the first time this company has been named in the underrated section, and I can't go against them because they make such great equipment, but their marketing is next level, hence why their prices are always skyrocketing. But there's one club that probably a lot of you have never even heard of, especially if you started playing the game in 2 years, and it's the Gapper. The high I'm talking about, not the low, not the mid, because I think a lot of people gravitate towards those driving irons, which you obviously heard in the driving iron overrated option in the earlier part of this video. And the reason it's kind of struggled is because it's not for that senior player that needs ultra forgiveness, big head, i.e. like a Ping G whatever, or it's not slim enough that is a bullet iron for that low handicapper, but for you mid-range guys that no one's really looking at it, hence why you can get this for £60, £70, £80. And let's be honest, this thing retailed at 210, 220. I remember club fitting for 3 years ago. You're now getting it for a third of the price. And I wouldn't say it's for everyone, and that's probably why the price is shown. Not many people are looking for it. But for that guy that's just started the game, that absolutely crunches the driver but goes everywhere, maybe you just need a forgiving iron. Not a hybrid that launches the ball into the clouds, but also not forgiving enough, or unforgiving enough I should say, as a 2-iron that you're never going to get it airborne. This I think is a perfect little test, and for £60, £70 I think you can try it out, and if you don't get on with it, just sell it on for exactly the same amount of money you bought it for. Now, irons is a very tricky one because you have to be very specific depending on who's playing it. Do you need graphite irons? Do you need small heads, big heads, whatever it might be? Again, a new addition to the underrated section. We're going PXG boys and girls, and you might have seen quite a few videos I've done. They brought out fantastic offers this year, whether it's the 0211 driver for £200 or my Gen 2 for £250 driver, which is still in the bag and I think is phenomenal, or the 0211 irons for £80. You could have got these for brand new, and that's a great price. And if you could have gone and got fitted, because I don't think they're doing it anymore, if you could have gone fitted for £80 a club for that Gen 2 iron, I think it's highly worth doing for your first ever club fitting, because PXG club fittings are one of the best. but because they retailed at £80, it means that the second-hand price is going to be even cheaper. And it might not be that way. I'll show you some evidence of these selling for £50, £60 a club, which I think is a steal. If you're getting 5 to pitching wedge, 6 clubs for £350 for a club that's just a year old, like literally come out, it's going to be pristine. It's not going to break on you. The grip's going to be in great condition. The shafts aren't pitted. I think for £50, £60, great addition for you guys that are just starting the game and want some modern technology but not a massive cavity back, nor do you want a blade. And also going forward for you guys going into winter, you might not find one now, especially after this video goes up, apologies for that, but in a month's time, 2 months time, just like I always say, just keep it in the back of your mind, just keep it in your saved searches, and you might find a set of 0211 iron being pictured in a dark, dingy room that you can barely even see the head, and there's one bid at £150. I think you'll be able to snipe yourself a lovely deal over the winter and to give yourself a great set for the next season going forwards with some nice, pristine, lovely looking PXG clubs. And lastly, my putter option, and again you could go back to my 2020 review where I just said yes, putters were a good option. However, I want to go a bit more upmarket. I want you to spend a tiny bit more money, and just like the PXGs and the Epic Flashes, yes, some go for a lot of money, but the Seymour putters are heavily underrated, especially for the kit you're getting. Like if you do a bit of research of what Seymour is and the major championships that it's won and the players that actually use it, it's a great idea. Essentially the red dot line system, so you know that you're setting yourself up perfectly for a putt each time. And these do retail for £200. But even the older ones or even the newer ones, depending on who puts what in the title description, go under the radar, and I'll show you some now going for 60, 70, 80 pounds. And when anything's going for 40, 50, I think spending an extra £30 on a premium putter, good bit of kit, and especially for you guys starting, not necessarily knowing is if your head's over the ball or are you aligned correctly, whatever it might be, I think the Seymour putter for £80 at a push is a heavily underrated bit of equipment. Do a bit of research, read about them, but for the value of money and the equipment that you're getting, I think it's just a bit of a no-brainer compared to some stuff that's been sitting in someone's garage for 10 years, going for 50, 60 pounds just because it's got Ping or TaylorMade slapped on the bottom of it. So guys, there you have it. There's my 2021 review of the second-hand club market and what I think is underrated for the price, or undervalued I should say, for its price. And it'd be interesting next year when I recap on all the models that came out this year. Will the Sim 2 nosedive into the ground? Will the Rad Speed nosedive into the ground? Will the putters finally go down? Will the wedges finally go to a reasonable price? Who knows? I'll be keeping a close eye on all of them to give you the best advice. If you like this video, please leave it a like, subscribe if you're new. Catch you guys later.
Morning Tom, hope you're doing well.
Good afternoon mate, well done on the lesson. And evening Alan, not a problem at all. And testing the G30s and the afternoon gents, on my way to the lockup. Go pick up the Mura iron.